Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Calhoun's. It's Thanksgiving on Thursday, as if you didn't know. And if you don't want to cook, don't want to do the dishes, don't want to have 20 people that you see once a year come into your house, then take them to Calhoun's. Get to Calhoun's. All of their locations are open on Thursday. That is the perfect place to at least go spend one of your meals on Thanksgiving, so you don't have to do it twice. Calhoun's. All right. Coming up, we're going to ask the media and the players whether this season was a failure. We'll have a little debate here to see if it was a complete failure, sort of failure. Where do you measure it in terms of failures? But I want to start with Jimmy and Will here. Butch Jones didn't talk about failure yesterday. He was asked about the Florida LSU game. He said that he never talked about it. The only thing that matters is being 1-0 this week and controlling what we can control. You never heard me talk about it, meaning the East race. Never heard the players talk about it. Our goal is to be 1-0 every week, and what happens, happens. They handed out rubber bands before the season that said own it. Is that owning it?
No. No, it's not owning it. In fact, I was disappointed that Butch Jones wasn't disappointed because the goal was to win the East. And I know he obviously didn't want to talk about the LSU-Florida situation. He didn't want to talk about Florida winning the East. He just wanted to focus on Missouri. But you have to be disappointed by not winning the East. And I don't care whether you were talking about it a lot, you knew that was the goal going in. If it wasn't the goal, what was your goal? I think he should have stepped up and said, yes, I'm disappointed, and yes, we wanted to win this, and I'm sorry we didn't beat South Carolina because we had it in our grasp and we let it get away.
Well, what in terms of saying that, is there any reason not to say that? You got a game to play. If you've got a team that you're worried about, they'll quit if they hear that kind of a thing. You've got bigger issues. Any reason to not just come out and say, yeah, it's disappointing we wanted to win the East?
Well, you don't think the rest of the team is disappointed about not winning the East?
I think he's disappointed. I just don't think he'll admit it.
I mean, not coming out and saying it doesn't add or take away anything from it. I mean, unless you've forgotten about what the goal was of being in a season, of being on a team which is to win a championship and have the opportunity to. And I guarantee they had meetings. What's our goal this year? Win the East Championship. Now you do that, how you do that, one game at a time. But you can't sit here and say that because we didn't get that, we didn't reach that goal, we're not disappointed in that. And there's nothing bad by saying that either.
You've addressed it earlier this year with the own it. We got to own the expectations. What expectations? The expectations you're talking about weren't winning one game at a time.
Right.
So you've addressed it.
One thing quickly, he said this program hadn't won 8 games in the regular season in a long time. It did last year.
I'm guessing he meant probably back-to-back years or something.
Maybe
I gave him a little bit of a break on that one, but yeah, it did last year.
And that's not a way to own it. I mean, fans want to hear you own it too, and by then all of a sudden taking it down and saying that is not helping your situation.
And he did after South Carolina. He took full blame, took full responsibility. But yesterday he didn't go there. All right, let me quickly run through some bowl stuff for you. Bitter then sweet, perhaps. Look at this. If the SEC champion goes to the college football playoff, which would be Alabama if they beat Auburn and Florida, well, if they beat Florida, then the Sugar Bowl takes the highest-ranked remaining SEC team in the college football playoff poll. There's what the poll looked like on the left this week. Alabama, number 1. They've still got Auburn and Florida. 15 was Auburn. They won yesterday. LSU was 16th. They lost. They've still got Texas A&M. Tennessee 19th. Who knows if they'll rise or fall after Missouri. This poll is unlike the other polls. It kind of restarts every week. You don't know what's going to happen. Florida will probably rise with that win at with that win at LSU, and then Texas A&M, as I said, plays LSU still. But over on the right, Tennessee fans should be pulling for Alabama to beat Auburn and Florida, LSU to beat Texas A&M, and obviously Tennessee to beat Vanderbilt. If you do that, there's a good chance you're the second highest rated team in the East, or the second highest rated team in the SEC, and you go to the Sugar Bowl, which isn't a bad consolation prize.
No.
So.
But only now you're pulling for LSU again, and they've already broken your
Thanks
a lot, guys.
Where's Ron taking care of you so far?
That's not far-fetched, what you just put up there. No. That is not far-fetched at all.
And let me welcome in Chuck Cavaleris down there. I didn't intro Chuck. All right, so I'll start with you, Chuck.
Yes, sir.
Let me show some Josh Dobbs numbers here. I'll get your take on this. All right, we got the Dobbs, double dose of Dobbs. There we go. There were his numbers against Missouri, and then the last 2 weeks are over on the other column. If you combine what he did against Kentucky and Missouri, 446 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, 24 carries for 374 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 820 total yards, 10 total touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. And here's something I wanted to do for a while. I didn't know what we'd find, but Dobbs versus mobile favorites, mobile quarterbacks at Tennessee. All right, I prorated their numbers. because Dobbs has more snaps, more passes, more rushing attempts than any of these previous guys because he started more. So I wanted to see how he did compared to Condrich Holloway, Tony Robinson, Heath Shuler, T. Martin, all fan favorites. He has a better passing completion percentage than Holloway and Robinson, better TD interception ratio than Holloway and Robinson, more rushing touchdowns than Holloway or Robinson, rushing yards better by 700 yards than anybody else on there. Yards per carry, he's at 4.8. That factors in sacks, people. He's still averaging 5 yards a carry. Total offensive yards, prorated. He's worth more yards than all those other guys would have been. And then you got total touchdowns. He's tied with Martin. Basically, he's one behind Martin. Heath Shuler had 101. Chuck, your thoughts on Josh Dobbs? Those numbers mean anything to you?
What more can you ask of a quarterback than 8,500 total yards and 81 touchdowns? And these past few games, when he's been given time to set his feet and throw the ball, only one interception. He's making all of these plays, and his teammates are kidding him about, man, it doesn't look like you don't run that fast, but nobody catches you. And he sheds tacklers all the time. I mean, I just don't know what else you can ask of a player that's had spotty offensive line play.
I think part of this is also social. T. Martin, Heath Shuler, Tony Robinson, Condrich Holloway. Well, Holloway didn't, but the other three played on winning teams. Holloway played on a good team, then it got worse. Wasn't his fault. All those are legends, though, but they didn't play in the time of social media and message boards when everybody can sit there and say, you suck. He sucks. Look at that pass. It sucks.
Yeah.
He's the worst ever. I think Dobbs has taken a hit because of that.
I think so too, and I also think he takes a hit because every game is on television now. So almost every pass he throws is seen by everybody. Whereas Holloway, you might have saw him 3 or 4 times, and it increased as these guys went on. But I think that hurts him a little bit too because everybody was tuned in for South Carolina, and he didn't have a good game against South Carolina, and that makes you immediately forget everything else he did before. And for some reason, it seems like it devalues the things that have come after a little bit. And I think I sent it to you twice, the exact same text last night. People just don't appreciate this guy enough.
And I think a lot of people are going to appreciate him more when he's gone. Will Overstreet, you get 15 seconds.
They also don't appreciate him because everybody still thinks they remember this offensive line and they don't give him enough credit for what he does without the front seven, the front guys in front of him really being able to open things up.
The most impressive play may have been a 12-yard run for a first down.
Yep.
When he ran like 50 yards.
Yeah, he went 50 yards for 12. It was very reminiscent of Holloway.
Yeah.
All those guys are legends. Not trying to take anything away from those guys. They're all fan favorites, legends. But when you look at I was shocked. I thought he'd be in the mix. I didn't think he'd be up there in terms of total offense more than any of those guys when you prorate the numbers. By the way, in case you're wondering about the rest of the bowl scenarios, if Tennessee doesn't go the sugar, citrus possibility / likelihood, Belk possibility. If you lose to Vanderbilt, then you got Music City, Tax Slayer type stuff to talk about. All right, when we come back, some eye-popping numbers. Thought those were interesting. Eye-popping numbers about UT's defense. Ooh, eye-closing numbers, and eye-popping numbers about Bob Shoop. We're going to do a lot of stuff with your eyes. Come on back on Sports Horse.